Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're off to a land of, well, let's be honest, pretty unbelievable extravagance.
Yeah.
Dubai. We all know Dubai, right?
Hmm.
The luxury hotels, the mind-blowing architecture. But what about the laws?
Right.
Laws that can really, really catch you out if you're not careful.
Absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today. We've got a really interesting collection of articles, even a whole sponsored video transcript, all about tourists finding themselves on, shall we say, the wrong side of the law in Dubai.
And some of these stories, believe me, you're going to be like, wait, they were arrested for that. I mean, we're talking a kiss on the cheek, jail time, a negative hotel review,
Yeah.
straight to court. It's wild.
Yeah, and I think the key thing to remember here is that Dubai operates within, well, a framework of Islamic law, and that heavily influences things, not just like the legal system, but societal norms as well. And that's very different from what many Western travelers might be used to.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit because Islamic law, Sharia law, it's something that a lot of our listeners might not be super familiar with. So in the context of Dubai, what does it actually mean to have a legal system that's based on that?
Right. So essentially, Islamic law, or Sharia as it's known, it's a religious law, right? And it's a fundamental part of the Islamic tradition. It's derived from both the teachings of the Quran and also the practices of the Prophet Muhammad. And in Dubai, this influences, well, various aspects of daily life, from social behavior to financial practices, and of course, the legal system, that's a big one.
So when we talk about these kind of unexpected laws, like, I mentioned the British couple reportedly jailed for a kiss, that's coming from this different set of guidelines, societal religious guidelines that are in place in Dubai.
Yeah, exactly. And I think public displays of affection, even ones that are considered totally normal in many other cultures, they're often frowned upon in Dubai. And these laws, they're really intended to uphold the cultural and religious values that are very deeply ingrained in Emirati society.
It's easy to forget, right? When you go on vacation, you don't just leave those kind of societal rules behind.
Exactly, exactly. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. And it's not even just, physical affection or anything. We're talking like online behavior. This Islamic law kind of reaches into the digital age as well. The case, for example, of the tourist who got arrested because he posted a negative hotel review.
Oh, yeah. That one made me think twice about leaving a bad review online, I'll tell you.
Well, it all comes down to defamation, which is taken very, very seriously under UAE law. They've got very specific cybercrime laws that govern online activity, even for visitors. Again, it just highlights that what might seem like a pretty harmless online rant in one country, it can have, big legal ramifications in another.
Yeah, you really do have to watch your P's and Q's over there. Speaking to things you got to watch out for, another one that seems to trip people up is the law surrounding alcohol and medication.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tricky because, Dubai does permit alcohol consumption in licensed venues like,
Hmm.
your hotels, restaurants, but public intoxication, absolutely not. We even saw a report about a woman who was arrested just for having a drink on her flight to Dubai. So even if
Hmm.
you're on the plane, you've got to be aware of those rules.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding the context of where and when it's okay.
Know the rules before you break them. Right?
100%. And this awareness is even more important when we get to medication. Dubai has this very strict list of banned substances, and this includes some medications that frankly are commonly prescribed in a lot of other countries, painkillers, anxiety meds, things like that.
Yeah. We actually saw an account of one tourist who was detained for carrying his prescription anxiety medication. And he had absolutely no idea that he was breaking any laws. Imagine.
Yeah.
You travel to a foreign country, you end up, detained for something that you need for your health. What a nightmare.
Oh, 100%. And it just goes to show research preparation before you travel is absolutely essential. Check that UAE official list of banned medications. You might even need prior approval for certain meds, even common ones. Like you said, better safe than sorry.
It's like every story we look at just adds another layer
Ugh.
to this whole intricate web of, Dubai's legal system. But I mean, it's interesting, right? As surprising as these anecdotes are, they're important lessons.
Yeah.
Like we've got to respect local laws and customs, even when they're different from what we're used to back home. I mean, it's part of being a responsible traveler, wouldn't you say?
Couldn't agree more. It's all about approaching travel with a sense of curiosity, a sense of respect,
Yeah.
and a willingness to learn about those different cultural norms.
Well said. All right, so let's dive into some more of these, shall we? Up next, we're looking at what seem like, well, minor offenses. But in Dubai, they can have some pretty big consequences. We're talking gestures, photography, even something as, well, I don't know, as random as poppy seeds. Stick with us.
All right, so we're back. And, before we went away, we were talking about some of the, I guess you'd call them lesser known areas of Dubai's legal system, right?
Right.
And some of these, honestly, they left us kind of baffled. We're
Yeah.
talking gestures, photography, even poppy seeds of all things. Like, who knew, right?
It's a perfect example, I think, of just how much weight
Yeah.
something that might seem completely trivial in one culture can carry in another. Like that case, for example, with the tourist who ended up getting arrested because, well, he made a rude hand gesture during a road rage incident.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that one.
Really drives home the point of just like being aware of your actions, even in the heat of the moment.
Yeah. It's easy to forget that those cultural norms, they apply to, they apply to nonverbal stuff too, not just what you say.
Absolutely. And speaking of things that can be, well, misinterpreted, we've got to talk about photography
Hmm.
because Dubai's got like, the architecture, the views, it's incredible. But snapping photos without, really thinking things through, it can have some consequences.
Right, like that story with that tourist. He got detained because he was taking pictures of a government building,
Yeah.
a police station, I think it was.
Exactly. And it's not just, government buildings. It could be military installations, even private residences in some cases. It's one of those, better safe than sorry situations. If it feels even remotely sensitive, maybe just, don't point your camera at it. And while we're on the subject of things that might seem harmless, but, actually carry some risk, we should probably touch on VPNs. Now that one really surprised me. What's the deal there? Well, Dubai, as you know, has very specific internet regulations, right? And using a VPN that's not authorized to get around those regulations to access blocked content or, bypass government restrictions, that is a violation of their cybercrime laws. There was actually a case in one of these articles where a tourist, he got hit with a pretty hefty fine just for using a VPN service that wasn't, authorized in the UAE.
Wow, I had no idea there were even like unauthorized VPNs. See, this is why I love these deep dives. You'll learn something new every time.
It is all about the nuances, right? And this actually ties back to something we were talking about earlier with, the whole sponsored video transcript.
Oh, right. Promoting that VPN service.
Yeah, they were very upfront about the restrictions on VPN use in Dubai and the importance of making sure you're using like an authorized provider. It's a really interesting look at how a company operating within these specific legal parameters, how they navigate marketing that.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. It does kind of make you think about internet freedom, censorship. But you know what? That's probably a whole other deep dive.
Another time, perhaps.
Definitely. So we've got gestures, photography, VPNs. But then there's this one case, and this one takes the
I
cake.
think I know which one you're talking about. This is the poppy seed incident.
The poppy seeds. I
Yes.
mean, of all things, who knew?
It just really highlights that even the most, seemingly innocent things can actually fall under, well, Dubai's pretty strict drug laws, right?
Yeah.
Because in this case, those poppy seeds, you find them on bagels, pastries, they come from the opium poppy, and that's a controlled substance in the UAE.
It really makes you realize, wow, you really have to be so aware. I mean, ingredients in your food, things you might have on your clothes, even especially in a country with, different rules.
Exactly. It all comes back to being informed, being prepared.
Okay, so moving on, let's shift gears a little bit to, a different aspect of this whole discussion. We're talking about the stories that really show how intertwined the cultural and religious beliefs are with Dubai's legal system, especially when it comes to, relationships, personal choices.
Wait, you're talking about that couple who were arrested for engaging in, well, relations outside of marriage.
That's the one.
Mm.
And as crazy as it sounds to some people, it does kind of remind you of a really key part of Islamic law.
Yeah.
Sex outside of marriage is a big no-no.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it was a hospital visit that kind of set off this whole chain of events.
It did.
I mean, you almost couldn't make this stuff up. But again, the point here isn't to judge or anything. It's about understanding the implications,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially for people traveling there.
Yeah.
Just got to respect that, hey, different societies, they've got different rules.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it actually brings up a really interesting question. How can travelers balance, this desire to experience new cultures with, well, the need to also respect those local laws and customs, especially when those customs are, very different from their own?
It's a tough one, right? Finding that balance. But I guess it comes down to, like we said earlier, responsible travel. Do your research, be mindful, be respectful.
I think that about sums it up. I think if we're like boiling it all down to the key takeaways here, it's research, Before you even think about packing your bags, you got to do your research.
Yeah. Dubai. It's incredible. But forewarned is forearmed, right?
Yeah,
Right.
100%. What might fly back home, it might not fly in Dubai. And we've seen that over and over again, haven't we? Public displays of affection, what you're saying online, medication, even something as small as poppy seeds.
A lot to keep track of. So any other words of wisdom for our listeners who might be, thinking about a trip to Dubai, this dazzling but legally complex city? I think research, that's number one. But number two, just cultural sensitivity, right?
Right.
Remember that those laws, those rules, they're coming from a place of Islamic tradition, Islamic values.
Yeah.
And even if you don't, fully get it, or maybe you even don't agree with it, being respectful, that's key. You're a guest, right? Not just a tourist.
So it's not enough to know the don'ts. You got to be open-minded, ready to adapt a little.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Embrace the difference, be respectful of those customs, and honestly, a little awareness can go a really, really long way.
I'll say. This deep dive has been, well, it's been an eye-opener for sure. I know I've learned a lot just about the importance of respecting local laws and customs, and especially in a place like Dubai. I mean, talk about a unique place. Culturally, legally, the whole package.
That's the beauty of it, right? I mean, these deep dives, they get us thinking outside of our usual boxes. Different perspectives, maybe a little uncomfortable sometimes, but ultimately we all come out of it a little more aware, a little more responsible.
Yeah.
Better global citizens. Oh, and I've done it better myself. And on that note, if you're planning a trip to Dubai, maybe do a little deep dive of your own. Check out our show notes. We'll have links to resources, but Dubai's laws, travel advisories, all that good stuff. Because knowledge, as they say, knowledge is your best travel buddy. Until next time, safe travels everyone and happy exploring.